Hey everybody. First off, I want to thank Tide Wee for paying for the show. If you need a pair of boots, a pair of waders, a new backpack, some hunting rain gear, look them up. They got some good stuff. I really love traveling around the country, meeting new people, experiencing new things. And I want to start doing a travel trip every year where I go meet somebody, some hunters, and go hunt their way, their areas, and go try hunting on that level platform that they're on and see how the deer are in their areas, what it's like in their states, their counties, and just travel around the country and try some of that stuff. So I'd like to go on a trip like that, one or two every year. This year I went to Indiana, and I hunted with Josh Talker and his wife Maddie, and their cousin, Chad Summers, was so gracious he let me use his brand new camper down there, set it up for me and everything. And the people are so great down there. I was trying to get a piece of stick out from in between my cam and my string, and I half fired my bow on accident while I was pulling it back, and blew my kisser button off and the serving, and I went to Chris Cooper's place. If you don't know who Chris Cooper is, he's one of the top archers in the country. He's really good. It's amazing. But anyways, I went over to his place. He was the only person around who could help me. And he reserved my bowl, put something on there for me to use as a kisser, and got me back to shooting. And not only didn't charge me, he gave me a summer sausage, thanked me for coming over, and made me some backstrap tenderloin. That's my kind of people. If you're looking for a destination, Indiana, man, great people. I wanted to really try a little of everything. I wanted to get in the hills, I wanted to get in the swamps, I wanted to get in the farm country, and I wanted to do it in a short trip. And for me, that really kind of takes away from the success, because for me, it's a lot easier to narrow in on one area and just hunt it down piece by piece. And I found myself doing that with a Charlie Swamp, but I still wanted to check out the hills, and then the hills seemed way better than Charlie Swamp. And then I want to check out the farm bottoms. So come along with me, watch what happens, and see the outcome. And I think you're going to enjoy the show. Pretty interesting, the difference between here and back home. Back in Wisconsin, you can't drive 5 miles without seeing a buck in a field chasing doe right now. And I haven't seen a buck since I got to Indiana, and I've driven all the way across the state. It's kind of amazing. All these really nice fields here. I don't even see trucks parked from hunters. Every property by us has trucks in the fields. And for contrast, coming out of Wisconsin, I was 15 minutes out of my door, and a Boone and Crockett buck walked right in front of my truck, and I had to stop for it. Wish I could have got filmed for it, but I was scrambling around for the camera, and it walked back into the trees. I mean, granted it was on private land, but I'm driving along here, and this is just all open crop fields with nice wood lots, and I don't even see a doe. Interesting. For me, hunting is all about scouting, especially in new areas. So what I wanted to do is really wear out some boot leather, really scour the ground, find the best spots I could, and go back and hunt whatever was best for the day. Even when I found something good, I kept scouting.
I know, I hate to... Should we wait till she takes off, make sure a big buck doesn't run across there?
Might as well. She's standing so still, she looks like a decoy.
I know.
She's right along that ridge that we were just looking at.
Gosh dang.
There, she moved her head. But you have to wonder if somebody's following her.
Look how relaxed she is with just us. She's sitting there eating something off the ground, Dan.
Yeah, she sure is. No, I lost her. Oh, there she is. She ain't acting like something's following her.
No, I think she's just transitioning back down into that bedding area probably.
Yeah. We're just down there looking, and where that lowland is, where that car is, there's a swamp that follows that edge. And this is an oak ridge, and we're going to walk that edge in and check that out. Now, one of the things I noticed was the comparison from Wisconsin to Indiana. Where I went, there seemed to be a lot less deer in Indiana, at least in certain areas. And I had to search for them to find them. In Wisconsin, if you see a good funnel on a ridge and you get back there and there's no hunter sign, there is going to be buck sign everywhere. That wasn't the case down there. I hiked in, a mile or so to spots where you saw no human sign of setting up ever. You didn't see any cut limbs, no tree stands, no nothing. And those guys can leave tree stands up, and yet there wouldn't be rubs. There wouldn't be that many scrapes. So again, kind of like Pennsylvania, I found myself seeking out acorns and the food source, and then finding the bed near the food source. And that was my best way of getting on deer while I was down there. And I found in the lower elevations, in the swampy areas, that a lot of the bedding was around greenbrier. They'd get into these thick patches of greenbrier, and if it had right elevations on the hills and stuff, even better. But it wasn't exactly what I expected. I expected them to bed in the lowest and the highest elevations, and they did. But a lot of it had to do with greenbrier. They'd get in or around that greenbrier where people wouldn't go. People wouldn't walk through it because it rips your arms up, rips your clothes up. But that's where we jumped just about every good buck that we jumped while we were walking around scouting. It was just done, dude. It's still wet. It's still wet. So we were mapping out this area, and there's a funnel back here, and you got a little experience back here. I think you've shot a few deer back in this area. I really like the looks of this funnel. I wanted to check it out, and we came up here and looked, and there's like a cutover over there that's real thick, and a cutover over there that's real thick, and a little strip of hardwoods that goes in between them. And when we come up here, I noticed a pretty big scrape right here, and you can see a trail cutting from cutover to cutover. And that tree right there, you can shoot to that cutover, and you can pretty much shoot everything over here, unless it falls right on that edge. But I'd have to think everything goes right through here. What do you think? I think so. This looks pretty good. So let's mark this spot, and we'll find another one.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
Come and kill one this evening.
What do you see?
What do I see? Another scrape, probably what, 70 yards from the
yeah, there's a rub
here
behind you too.
Yep.
That tree's tore up. And there's the scrape you spotted. And that's on the same trail coming out of that funnel a little bit, but it also goes down to another spot we were looking over in here. Yeah. I mean, I think that we should have action tonight.
Yeah, and then back deeper in the hardwoods here, we found another good scrape where, we got a lot of acorns and stuff falling, and obviously I think they're bedding up in here though.
Yeah, the tour we came in, there's some pretty good scrapes.
Yeah.
And some of them were fresh from this morning, probably just not long before we got here.
Right.
And
we just missed him.
And coming around to public, coming off of private, heading into public, we seen a buck. I mean, that thing had to be 160s.
Yeah, it's a sure enough shooter.
Right, he was working a scrape on a tree line coming into here.
Yeah, he's probably, what, 300 yards from us, and you could just see.
Yeah. One of those deer you look and you see antlers before you notice the deer.
Yeah, exactly. It's like shining in the light out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was probably, what, 8:30 this morning?
Yeah. All right, I'm pretty happy about what we found. We'll see what happens tonight.
Gives us a starting point. So.
Yep.
All right.
Pretty fresh. That looks this morning too.
Is there peeing in it?
Yeah, yeah, right. There's another rub. It's a good location right here. Holy cow.
It's kind of in line with what we were looking
Yeah. So we came back here. This is like an isolated area of oaks that we could see from the road. And it's behind some private property, so we thought maybe it would be overlooked. And there's a lot of historical rubbing going on just about every tree in here. And we found this fresh scrape here. I like this area. Acorns are dropping around us, and there's a spot right there where we could cover just about everything in here, because the oaks is a pretty small area. What do you think?
at. I think so. I think I like it just because I don't think many people are going to come right behind this lake, this private lake, and hunt right here.
Yeah.
And there's really good, I mean, if you just look right here, deer could bed right in there. And there's bedding.
Right, it's surrounded by swampy area. This is like the higher area with the oaks. You can see from the road by the yellow and red oak leaves that this is the area that's got the acorns, and everything else is kind of just swampy. It's a historical rub right there. See it?
On that other cedar, yep.
Yeah. So that's a pretty good size diameter-wise rub there. What, 12 inches?
Yeah.
And there's an older one there. You know what I noticed? Is they're heading towards those oak trees, and it's the only oak trees I see around.
Yep.
Otherwise, there ain't much sign back here.
No, it's pretty monotonous too. I mean, it's not.
Let's take a look by those oak trees, and there's nothing, just get out of here.
Okay. Go through there.
Yeah. So we've been running around checking out funnels and stuff and spots where there should be good deer travel. And you can see historical sign. And here we got a lot of oak trees, but no acorns in the ground.
Right.
And again, no sign. So it's a matter of finding those acorns, I think.
Yeah, and I think we found it earlier today.
Yeah.
So.
Spent most of the day scouting, and we're going to end up back in the stuff we started.
Right. Pretty much started with.
Yeah. The very first one, kind of.
Yeah.
But,
So.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we can go back to the truck and find a restroom and then head back out.
Yeah, and get out hunting.
Yep. Well, almost to my spot. I'm just going to stop here and slow down a little bit. Dan's let me borrow one of his beach stands for this hunt. And it's about 80 degrees out today, and I'm glad I got this lightweight stand. It's freaking awesome. As soon as these things come out, grab one up. You won't regret it.
So day one, Josh is sitting right over there. Behind me here, back here, there's a big scrape. That's where we scouted, and I went up to look around. I didn't like the size of the tracks or the amount, but there's a pretty heavy trail there. I hee-hawed around and ended up coming 75 yards down here. What I did was I followed this creek bed here down, and found where most of the crossings are. We're in the middle of an oak flat, and there's deer coming through here like crazy, back and forth. Josh is on a pinpoint over there, and I'm just kind of in the middle where they all cross. So we'll see what happens. There's a lot of trails that cross right in here, like down in here, down in there, down over there. There was a big, I don't know exactly where it was, but there's a scrape up here that was really fresh from this morning. And then the other scrape is over there. I have to think there's something going on here. There's a really thick area over here, a cutover, and another cutover on the other side of me here. There's a little funnel of trees that goes through them, which is why I originally liked that area. But it just seems like the bucks are running this way, back and forth. Guess we'll find out. See if anything comes through here tonight.
Alright, just got everything set up here. I'm going to show you guys kind of what we're working with here. In front of me is these little set-aside fields or clear-cut fields that the deer like to bed in. And I'm essentially just on a ridge coming down where it leads into some oaks that are back in here where there's some really good scrapes and some fresh ones that look like they were probably done this morning. Dan is just a couple ridges over that way, and he's in a little pinch point between two different clear cuts. So there's a clear cut that is just north of here, and then I'm on the south lane. He's kind of in between the two. So yeah, between the two of us, I have a good feeling about tonight. I just wish it wasn't 80 degrees outside, but it is November 7th. So literally anything could come buzzing by tonight. This bee stand, it looks small, but it does not sit small at all. I'm super impressed with it. I got plenty of foot room down here, and yeah, A+, knocked out of the park in my opinion. And I've sat in a lot of stands.
One of the main things is that this area here, can you hear the acorns dropping? Has lots of acorns. There's not a lot of areas around here that have a lot of acorns. This seems to be it. So I'm liking this area right here because of that. It's a small area of acorns. So there's got to be deer heading in and out of here.
All my wind is just kind of sucking down into this valley, and it's going right up to Dan, right like I want it. Scare all them deer away from him. I just had a nice buck walk by at about 70 yards. I just saw him for a second, then he was gone. So, sit in here tight. Pay attention, maybe he'll come through here. It's early. It's not even 3 o'clock yet. I know it's kind of hard to see with this sun right in my eyes, but that buck walked right down through there, and then it gets really thick over in here, so I couldn't tell where he went off to. He came by literally before 3 o'clock. I just gotten set up. I thought I heard something running around over there when I was setting up, and sure enough, I guess he was over there, but hopefully he comes back by before it gets dark on me, or he's running over there by Dan.
Josh just texted me and told me that he saw one heading this way that had a decent rack on its head. We'll see if it makes it this far. I can see a pretty vast area, so if it's coming this direction, it should come through here. Let's hope.
Just had another small buck walk around the same trail as that bigger buck. I don't know if a hot doe moved through there earlier, what's going on. Well, Dan either just farted, which could have very well been, judging by how the day's been going, or he saw a nice buck, because I just heard some grunts over there where he was at. So he's about 200 yards from me. Hopefully that big one worked his way down to him. a third buck just came in behind me. I got a little footage of it, but he did not respond to my bleats, which makes me think maybe there could be a bigger buck in here close by that's keeping him from wanting to, wanting to challenge it at all. So maybe there'll be something bigger come by tonight. Kind of a small 2-year-old probably, or maybe a 1.5-year-old.
I went up there to that scrape and I just didn't like it. I mean, the trail coming through there, I looked at the tracks in the scrape and I decided to go downstream and just look at the, like in the draw,
Yep.
the tracks crossing. And I looked at the tracks where the scrape was. And I went down further and further and further, and I got about 75 yards down from the scrape. And there's good crossings in there, and I could see everything.
Yeah.
I climbed up there and sat, and every time you said you saw a buck,
Yeah.
I heard jays up in the corner.
Really?
Like that's where they're entering in and out of that thick stuff. I mean, is that possible?
Could have been, yeah, because they were essentially they were. I was just south of you, and then those bucks were west of me, probably 50 to 70 yards, and they weren't traveling they would come over top the ridge and then go up into kind of catty-corny back away from both of us, up into those clear-cut field things.
Yeah, I could hear where they entered.
Yeah, so
the birds were going nuts every time you'd say you saw one.
Yeah.
Kind of coming my way.
Yeah.
And then a little while later, I'd hear those birds go nuts.
Yeah. Then I had another one which could have been the small one. He could have been just circling around. But then I had another one come in behind me, and he came down from that little draw we walked out on. And walked down in there.
I was looking at that, and it was looking like if I sit behind that private tomorrow in the morning, I could drop down and scout. Mm-hmm. I bet you they're coming in. There's probably a really good funnel right behind that.
Yeah, I think we need to go in and scout that south of me.
Yep.
This way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think where that main drainage comes out into those flats down there, or those creeks down there.
Well, let's see what I see in the morning, and then we'll regroup and go in deeper.
Sounds good.
All right. So that first buck you saw?
Yeah.
Was it a shooter?
It was definitely bigger than the small one I saw. Yeah, I only saw him for probably 4 or 5 steps.
But you see it had a rack.
Yeah. That's the first thing I noticed was a rack on him.
So if you moved over, would you get to where all the action was?
Yeah, if I would have been up on that little ridge farther and then to the west a little farther, I would have been.
How far?
He was probably, when I saw him, he was probably 50 yards.
Oh, that ain't far at all.
No, he wasn't far. But that's the closest he got to me. He was angling away into the north. Mm-hmm. Like he was going up into those, he wasn't coming from those fields, he was going up into them. But he could have been bedding in them ridges or something, The ridge I was on was fairly thick, really.
What's interesting is that from they come in that direction, they almost got to be coming through close to where we looked at behind the private.
Yeah, could have been.
I mean, they didn't come right through the middle of the guy's pond.
No,
I mean, for them to circle back into that clear cut.
Yeah.
I mean, if they were coming from behind it, they'd just go through it that way.
Right.
So they almost had to be coming from up this way somewhere,
right.
So you'd have to put them behind that guy's property.
Yeah. And it was like 2:45 when he came through. I mean, I just got up there and got settled, and I actually heard something walking when I was putting the stand up, and just kind of stopped for a minute, and then went back to doing it, and then right as soon as I sat down, he came through there. But squirrels were rutting pretty good too around me at least.
Yeah.
They're crazy.
Oh yeah. I only saw one squirrel the whole time I was in Pennsylvania. I was like, what is wrong with this state?
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Here we're back into squirrels.
There was never not a squirrel around me, I don't think.
Even when I was where the acorns were, there was no squirrels. It was crazy.
Just don't have a good population there of them, I guess.
I think those guys, they see a squirrel, they kill it, they eat it. There are no squirrels left. So the next morning, I decided to hunt that little oak island on the far end of the private land and really set up close to the land border and observe down that oak ridge and see what came through. And then if nothing came through, to scout down deeper. This was a little bit of a funnel, and I could see half the funnel from where I sat, and the thicker half in the bottom I couldn't. But I knew that the deer that Josh had seen had to have come through that funnel. It's about 7 a.m. the second morning. I'm hunting a little oak island. That way is just all swamp, no oaks, and they're dropping right here. And then it's surrounded by lowland, wet, swampy area. And then that way there's another oak ridge, and that way is where we were hunting yesterday, where Josh saw the bucks. Looking in here, there's a nice scrape right over here that's fresh. So I set up within range of that, but I wanted to get more towards the point. But really, I think this is more of an observation set. We know those bucks are coming from this direction. So they're either going through here or they're going through down further. So hunt this once, then scout down deeper, see what we run into. I didn't see nothing yet this morning. I'm going to get down, I'm going to strip down a little bit and go light. And I'm going to go scout this little area here. This isn't a very big chunk. And all those deer that were seen yesterday come through there. We're coming through here. I have to think along that bottom. Earlier I thought I heard a grunt back there, but it might not have been. I don't know. But I want to get down there and find a main trail that goes up to where the deer were seen. There's a lot of good pinch points back here that everything kind of comes together. So I'm just going to slide down there real quietly with the bow and leave my stand and stuff sit here and just see what's going on down there. Okay, I dropped down to the bottom of the point. My stand from this morning is up there. That's where that scrape was. And that trail from that scrape comes down here like this. It comes down here. There's 2 scrapes right here. There's 2 more trails that come in here. Each of them has a scrape on it, coming out of that thick cut over there. There's another scrape right up there. 300 yards that way is the cut over. Those bucks had to come through here. So I'm thinking they came right through here. I think one of these trees down here will cover this whole bottom. And anything dropping down here or dropping down there has to come through right there tonight. My only worry is I got too much scent in here maybe. I think I need to get out of here and let this dissipate. Even when I was sitting here, down here, every blue jay and squirrel went nuts for a while. So I got behind this little stump here, got my bow ready. But whatever it is never came up. But they were making so much racket, something had to be going on down there. Okay, this is the tree I was looking at from over there. It covers all those trails coming through here. And it'll cover any coming down there. And interesting enough, it's got a nice high rub right underneath it when I got over here. There's like 3 main trails that come from those scrapes right through here. And the wind's blowing like this. So this evening when they come out like this should be a good spot. Josh was sitting right over there. And all those bucks came through here and went up like that. This has got to be where they came through. Oh, I see another good rub right there. See it? That one's a little lower though. It's a bigger tree, but lower to the ground. This one's nice and high. Now I'm scouting the other side of that private property. There's really no place to get your car parked over here, so it doesn't look like there's a lot of pressure. And right away, 50 yards off the road, I see a giant rub. Look at that. That is massive. Wow. Still got the bark laying on the leaves. It's as big around as my hip. I think this thing has some anger management issues. Look at that. Another tree as big around as me. He just ripped the ground up while he's rubbing it. I'd like to run into Mr. Angry, to be honest with you. Looks like he's coming out of here. There's a tangle down there. This stuff ain't real fresh, though. Looks like about a week ago. That's big animals doing that. Josh had some nice river bottom farmland that we were going to try for the evening hunt. I really wanted to experience the farmland, and I was kind of surprised at how open it was. There wasn't very many trees. So we're going to try out some farmland today. Josh got permission on a farm over here, and it's kind of wide open.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is a big area. It's like 1,000 acres, but it's just tree lines.
Yep. Just a big creek that runs through it, essentially, and some CRP.
So, you hunted this before?
Yeah.
Where are you going to go at?
I'm gonna go along. There's like a big creek. It's probably 10 yards wide, and there's a kind of a tractor lane that goes all the way down through the corn. And I'm just gonna go and work my way in and read sign coming in.
How thick is that tree line along that river?
Not thick. It's pretty much a row of trees and then the river.
And it's just surrounded by corn?
Yep. And there's a tractor pass that's as wide as a tractor is. You know, maybe 10 yards wide.
Okay. And he pointed out some tree lines that come together over here, and it looked really good to me, and I thought a little spot where everything kind of came together, and I'm going to go check that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good spot. Especially, hopefully this time of year, something will run by you tonight. So
It'd be nice to see something. I
Yeah.
haven't seen a deer yet. I've seen some big rubs and...
Right. Yeah. It's early. You've only set one time. Well, 2 times, I guess.
So day one we try swamps. Now
Yeah.
we try farms.
Yeah.
Maybe tomorrow we'll get in the hills.
Yeah,
Oh!
that's right.
I just got stung. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yellow jacket just got me while I was talking to him. Oh,
in
man.
November when it's 80 degrees outside,
Oh.
they came back to life.
I don't know what I did. Are we standing on a nest
I
or
don't
something?
think so. Everything, all different insects, animals just attracted to you, Dan.
Yeah. Just an angry SOB. Stung me. The property we hunted on was 1,000 acres, and I doubt there was a combined 10 acres of solid trees. It was mostly cornfields, CRP, and where there was woods was rivers, creeks, and little fence line patches.
So, scouting my way in here, up fairly close to the truck, there were some really good signs, some really big tracks, and then really good scrape. That looked like it was freshly opened. I walked down the edge here, probably 300 or 400 yards, kind of a long way, and really the best sign was back here where these couple fingers come into this creek. So I'm gonna head back here and set up. I'll show you guys once I get up here what it looks like.
Finally set up. It's about 2:30, I think. I'm in wide open fields in a farm bottom that's just surrounded in the distance by all the public hill country. Kind of a cool setting, but it's really hard to set up anywhere in here. What I chose here was where all the fields come together. I got a cornfield here, cornfield there, this funnel coming out of here with some little pockets of trees back in there, some little pockets of trees up in there, and then wide open CRP that way. So this is kind of the funnel of where everything comes together. There are an awful lot of tracks going up this edge here out of this little funnel, and even a scrape over there. But other than that, I don't see a lot of sign. But if there's something big in here, and there seems to be a lot of does in this area, you'd think that the bigger bucks would be down in here chasing them does around. So hopefully we get some cruisers through here. I believe Josh is in that tree line right over there, and that's where the river goes through. So he's along the river. told me he shot a 150 incher walking up the river over there one time. So we'll see.
Alright, so I got all set up here. Essentially what I got here is, you guys can see all that CRP out in there, and then there's a finger that comes out of that CRP field that has a ditch that runs through, and that ditch runs right down through here in the middle of this cornfield, comes out right there, and there's a little tree line that goes with just a few trees on it that goes into the cornfield, and underneath that tree over there, there's a really good scrape, and there's a good path that goes down to into the creek here, and I can see down this creek quite a ways on both sides of me. I saw something for a second, and I would imagine these bucks are going to be cruising this creek looking for does, hoping that that buck that made that scrape underneath that tree right there will show back up this evening looking for his does. I can also shoot, got a couple holes on this side of the creek I can shoot on, but maybe a little bit tough to get a shot off over there. But set up here, it's pretty early. Yeah, we gave ourselves plenty of time, so set up here and wait. My wind is just kind of dropping and sucking down into this creek and then heading to the south down the creek, so I think I'll be okay. As long as nothing comes from my south down the creek. I think it's sucking down into the creek, so I should be good if something comes along the field edge here. Now, obviously, if something comes from the north, they're not going to smell me either. So I feel like I'm in a good spot as far as the wind goes. Dan, he's back here in the corner of this CRP field where that woods and the corn kind of meet. So he's also in a pretty good spot. Hopefully he gets on some tonight.
I'm not sure if I had record going or not, because I just looked down and I was talking to the thing and it wasn't recording. A shooter just walked by down the cornfield edge, 40 yards from me. I tried to grunt him closer, he just ignored me. He just kept going. I'm hoping he circles back, but I doubt it. But he was a nice buck. Nice big cage on him. Self-filming is hard. And it's one thing to hold a camera up and film for somebody using a camera arm. It's a whole nother thing to have a camera arm over here and film while you're watching deer coming in and trying not to get spotted and trying to get ready for the shot. And I think what happened was I double tapped the record button, so I turned it on and off on accident. Sometimes if you hit it just right, you can double tap it. And I think that's what I did, but I didn't get the buck on film. So that buck walked that corn edge right there at 40 yards. Walked through here, down like this. Took that corner and went that way. Now I can hear jays and stuff were going nuts in there a little while later. And that kind of is a dead end. There's one little finger that goes out of it through corn. Maybe he goes through all this stuff and comes back out. I don't know. We'll see. I can kind of see the open CRP up there if he pops out up there. But I could miss him. I'd just like him to come back right down through here down that trail.
So there's a new feature on this hunting beast stand that it's top secret. Dan doesn't want anybody to know about it, but I'm going to tell you about it. On the side of the stand, down below your feet, there's an on and off switch. And that's for a cloud of ozone that forms around you when you're sitting in the stand, so you don't have to worry about the wind anymore. So you buy Dan's stand, no more milkweed. Can you believe that? And since we all know Dan is a hardcore liberal, it's running off of solar power, so no batteries, no waste. They thought of everything with this stand, let me tell you. And the reason Dan needed this feature is because, I don't know if you guys knew this, but Dan showers on Wednesdays whether he needs it or not. And usually by Monday or Tuesday, you know, I could smell Dan from upwind. So it was starting to become a problem, and you know, instead of just the simple solution of maybe taking a shower more than once a week, Dan just decided to invest really heavily in this ozone machine that's built into his stand. 2 ways to skin a cat, I think.
A little while later, I heard another buck approaching on the same trail as the first buck. But this time, I hit the record button. Almost got that one to come into the grunt call. He took the same path as the first deer. The first one was a lot bigger though. He was only about 100 incher. I don't think he was a shooter. He did have an 8-point rack, and the last times were kind of high, but he didn't look all that big. But I kept grunting him out of the corn up to the briars, and he just wouldn't come through the briars. He'd come up to the edge and stare over. Can't believe this weather. It's closing time right now, and I'm wearing a t-shirt and I'm sweating. It's downright hot out. How did you do?
Well, felt good about the spot, and there was just a pile of tracks down that creek. So they're definitely running it at some point in time, but they were not running it tonight. I didn't see anything. I could see both sides of the creek and all down the creek, and nothing came by.
No deer.
Yep.
And the only 2 deer I saw were two bucks. The 10, I think it was a 10, and then an 8. And the 8 probably was borderline shooter. I don't think I'd have shot him if he went underneath me. But I couldn't have shot him anyways, even if I had clear lanes. I mean, if the briars weren't there, I could have, but he was on somebody else's property.
Right.
Just barely.
Right.
But on somebody else's property. Cool nonetheless, though. You know,
Yeah.
I kept thinking I'd come down there. And at 8-pointer, I was playing with him, trying to crawl him in. And he would come up to the edge of the corn and look at me through the briars. And then he would rake his antlers on a corn stalk as if it were a tree and break the corn stalks off.
That was probably making him mad too. He couldn't rub anything.
I don't know what I got for footage because in the sun glare, I could hardly see the screen. The next morning, rather than hunt spots we weren't really excited about, we got out and just pounded scouting. What's going on?
So we were kind of making our way around this little marshy pond that's out here. And there's a good transition where the pines start. And I just happened to look over and I just saw a little flash of something.
I hear him. It sounds like he's making a scrape.
Spook for sure.
He spooked for sure?
He was sitting there looking me in the eye.
Okay. I heard him like thrashing something. Didn't you hear that?
Yeah.
That's it's him pushing through.
There was a couple of them there. It seemed like.
How nice was he?
I could see a rack in there. You know, he was sitting underneath that those pines, that transition area where those pines start.
Yeah, it looks like they're funneling around the front of this swamp, not going through it. Probably because of the depth of the muck in there. It's pretty nasty. But not a lot of sign.
No, no beat down trails or anything. I don't think a lot of deer are using it.
Yeah.
And that rub could be from a young deer too. It's not, you know, it's thigh high, not really anything above waist or anything.
So stand by it once.
Do it.
Stand by it once. So if you look at what he's talking about here, comes up to here.
The center of it.
Yeah, it's probably a 3-year-old buck down here. You'd like to see him up in here. You know, not that I wouldn't shoot a 3-year-old.
Right.
I just don't think Charlie Swamp has a lot of deer in it.
Charlie needs to think about different management practices, I think.
Right. Did you get any deer?
No.
I thought maybe you did. There's one floating right there.
Whatever. Oh, there is. I mean,
Oh, we should see if that's a buck, eh?
Kind of looks like it might have a rack on it.
Yeah, maybe somebody liver shot one or something and it ran out there.
Hey, maybe that one I shot in the Beaver National the other night.
Okay, we can say that. I think that's a deer, ain't it?
Yeah, that's a deer. It's a little buck.
You see a rack sticking up? I don't see no rack. Or is it a rock? Oh, it's a deer.
Yeah, it's a little buck, man. See the little
Yeah.
point side on it? You need meat really bad?
It looks delicious. Well, look at the size of that thing. I think that is the buck you shot.
That's probably a 3-year-old. Look at the body on it now. Yeah, I wouldn't mess with it.
Oh, we finally found a buck.
Yep.
Need some jerky?
Good bedding area right there. Right there in that those lily pads.
Now, when you look at all the scouting we did on Charlie Swamp, it was really a method of focusing in with sign and stuff and where deer were seen on the first hunt and really focusing in on an area and narrowing it down to where the deer were. Hunting the area down. So we're back in the Charlie Marsh, Charlie Swamp, and we got some cutovers over here, and we're walking the back side of them. What we noticed is when we were hunting on the other side, it seemed like there's some big buck sign, and it all seemed to come this way from the other side of the woods. So we wanted to take a look up here and just see what kind of sign we got up here. So we're trying to get a gist of where these big bucks are hanging from all the sign we're seeing. And there seems to be a pretty good amount of sign up here too, but we're going to look a little further. There's some stuff that looked better further back that kind of lines up with what we were hunting on the other side, and kind of in the mindset of hunting the area down and find those bucks.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird looking rub. Get some pressure. First time we've seen a tree stand in a halfway decent looking spot. Man, he's only got to be about 12 feet off the ground though.
You can see here where the bark's growing around.
Yeah. Yes, it's been here for a year.
Yeah.
I'll drop this to the back of this and then take the timber over. Yep.
Right over there is where I had marked.
Yeah, I like that area too. Yeah, it looked like a doe, but it was awfully big bodied. It jumped up right in here someplace and just trotted up into that open and then just walked off.
Yeah. Almost exactly where we thought they'd be.
Yeah. I just don't see the sign like there's a hot doe around here. We'll look up a little further, I guess. Yeah. Seeing a doe is a good sign. We haven't seen one the whole time out here.
Yeah, we've seen more deer walking around the last hour than we have, since you got here. Really.
Yep.
Me and Dan are heading in for the evening hunt here, and I'm actually coming in from the opposite end of this piece of public we're hunting, and we'll just call it Charlie's Swamp. And I'm actually hunting closer to the other road where where Dan's coming in from. But if I come in from that road, I'm kind of walking through our deer that we're hunting. So I got a little bit of a hike back through the woods to get to where I need to go, and I'm pretty much going to go up through this little pinch point. You guys can see back in there is a lake, and on the back of the lake there's a swamp, and those deer, it kind of funnels them down through a little clear cut that's back in here. So that's where I'm heading.
So yesterday morning, when I scouted back further and found all those scrapes and stuff, I'm going to that spot. I'm going to look and see if the scrapes are opened up. If they're not, I'm going to go back further. But I really like that area. And it's kind of connecting all the big sign we're finding back here, back and forth. So that's probably where I'll end up. But if I don't like what it looks like today, I'll move back further. Coming through here, I'm in a bunch of ridges, and what I'm doing is walking this dry creek bed so my sound doesn't carry so far. If I get up on these ridges, these dry leaves are making a lot of noise. I do have a little bit of wind cover though, so I'm thinking I can get back here relatively quiet by following this river bottom.
So it's a pretty good track there. Not super fresh, but if you look, there's a really nice transition line right through there, and I need to get around that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hug this lake edge and try to get back behind the bedding, which should be up in there if they are in their bedding right now. And my wind was coming out of the south this way, so I should avoid getting my scent all up in there. Yep, that's a really good sign there.
He did not like that tree. This is that ridge. They're coming over, and they come from over there. I gotta find my tree. It was somewhere right in here. And then I gotta see if the scrapes are still open.
I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but that's a rub that's above my waist. So there's a big one living in here. It's not real fresh, but it's from this year for sure. So I'll keep working my way through here real slow.
"80 degrees today. It's a warm one. I didn't see any deer out cruising around during daylight. And we did a lot of scouting. Really pounding the ground trying to get on some deer. But I ended up coming back over to where I hunted yesterday morning. Yesterday morning I was up on that ridge way over there, over a scrape. Later in the morning I came down and I scouted and I found a scrape up there, and then there's a whole bunch of scrapes in a radius around that little tree there. And there's a couple scrapes down here, and there's trails that come down like this and over, and there's rubs dotting all over the place down here, and there's some heavy trails coming through like this, and there's some scrapes coming over the hill on a trail over here coming down, and a heavy trail going right through here. This looks pretty good. There's a real narrow pinch point here, and I'm hoping if a big boy stays in that thick cover that I'll see it over there on the other side of the river. So, wind's picking up, it's overcast. Hopefully this evening they move again. Josh is hunting on the other side of the woods here. He's about half, 3/4 of a mile that way. And he texted me a minute ago and said that he jumped a big one and headed my way. That's downwind, so I don't think it'll make it here. You never know. I scouted a little bit over there yesterday, and there's some really, really big rubs. But those same big rubs are on the other side of me over here. And it's either two big bucks or it's the same buck running this area. Either way, there's great doe bedding over there, great doe bedding over there. There's food right here, and this is a pinch point between them. So if they're searching, they should come through here. That's over here is a cutover, and it is really thick, and it seems like that's holding a lot of the deer, or at least it looks like it from the trails coming out. I scouted about a quarter mile that way, and there's some giant rubs over there, and if you look around up on the ridge, all those beech trees are all scarred from historical rubs on those trails coming down here. So there was some real big fresh tracks down here too when I came through, but no telling if they came through at night or not. Josh has some trail cameras out, and he's getting pictures of some big bucks, and most of them are at the edge of darkness, whether it's in the morning or evening. So, you know, a little cool down, a little overcast, and hopefully they move a little better. But still working at it.
I was making my way through here trying to get to this point, and I just had I don't know, I just got done thinking, man, I feel like I may be getting too close to the bedding in here, and just jumped a stud. He was bedding in these greenbriers right here, and you can see his big rack going through the trees in there, and that's what me and Dan are finding. But the deer aren't in the swamp or anything right now. They're up in these greenbriers bedding. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to push in here farther now that I jumped him out of there, and try to see if he'll circle back around to come in back into this bedding area tonight. Man, I don't think he could smell me, but he definitely spooked. That buck I jumped was right inside there. There's actually a clear cut over here that runs all the way down. I don't think a big buck would like going through that stuff. It's really high stem count. It's thick as dog hair, and at the end of it there's a lake, so there's a good pinch point right there that comes into this bedding area behind me. So what I'm hoping is, and it's worked for me before, honestly, I'm hoping that buck has bound off up into those up closer to the other road, and this evening he'll work his way back to this bedding, because right now this time of year, you know, they're in areas for reasons, and that's usually because there's does around. I didn't see any does with him, but I'm hoping he'll you know, come and work back this way this evening. I also think instead of walking down this this little clearing, I'm going to go right inside this little set aside here and walk down that. That way I'm not exposed out here in this bedding area as bad. There's a ground blind right here on the back side, not very far from where I wanted to sit, but I don't know. I'm not real worried about it, I guess. That buck was in here. He's going to come back, I think. A climber in here too that they're hiding. Keep going. I have a feeling that they're coming off that other road though, just because I'm kind of getting closer to it than I was the opposite end. But I don't know. That has a bunch of leaves and stuff on it. May not have been used this year yet. I'm not sure. I think I found a spot I'm going to sit. Pretty much what it is there is a fence row here that goes in between two clear cuts. I obviously know that buck ran up in here somewhere. He could be in the next county by now, or he could be working this fence row right now. It's really hard to say. He didn't seem to be real spooked. So hopefully he's still in the area. There's also a clear cut on this side, and there's obviously an edge that they can come down. I don't think they're going to want to cruise through all that stuff. That's really nasty greenbriers. I think they'll bed in there, but I don't think they're going to want to just be buzzing around in there. So I'm hoping they'll come up through this little opening, or this little area that's a little easier for them to make up ground cruising. And then obviously they'll want to cruise in between these two clear cuts, searching for does going in and out of bedding. I think I'm going to get in this larger tree here if I can get my sticks around it and get up in that little fork. So, yeah, I like this spot. Not a lot of sign, but I know there's a big buck right here in this area. So don't get too hung up on sign whenever you know that that there's something good running through here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get set up, and I'll see you guys at the top of the tree. All right, I'm all set up here now. I was gonna show you guys kind of what I'm dealing with. You can see there's a really good transition line that goes. That's the set aside field or the cut over. There's also it's a little less obvious, but there's another transition line of these green briars that these deer are bedding in that goes back into that area where the lake is. And there's another set aside or clear cut field out here, and then obviously there's going to be a transition line there, and then in front of me here is a tree line that goes in between two clear cut areas. So I'm really in a spot where I got multiple transition areas that comes together right here in this little open area. I'm hoping that buck's still in the area. Maybe he's not the only one that's living in this area. I don't know if you guys can see. I got the lake right over there, so I'm in a little bit of a pinch point. The really narrow part of the pinch point's down that way farther, but it really didn't look that good, to be honest with you. There wasn't as much sign, and I think what the reasoning is because I found a climber and a ground blind on that pinch point. So those deer are probably getting around that pinch point somehow, and my best guess is they're going to come through here and maybe cut around these clear cuts to avoid that area where they're seeing a lot of pressure. So set up here and see what happens. Wind's kind of blowing back towards that lake back there. It's I don't know if you guys can hear it or not. It's a pretty steady wind. So it was 80 degrees today, and tonight a cold front's coming through, and tomorrow I don't think it's supposed to get but 55, and I think that's going to be in the morning. It's going to be 55, and then keep dropping off. So hopefully this evening something's on their feet. I just saw something cross about 80 yards down this finger between the two cut fields, or the set aside fields. I think I'm gonna grunt a little bit, maybe do a little snort wheeze and see if I can pull whatever it was over here. It looked like I think I saw a rack going through there, but my eyes could be deceiving me too. Not gonna hurt anything. Well, it might. It may scare them off, but what the heck, right? It's that time of year.
Yeah, I didn't see nothing either. Not a thing, but there's more sign down there, so I don't know if they're nocturnal or what. Down in deeper, I heard some squirrels going nuts, but I could see pretty far, and I didn't see a deer.
Yeah.
Surprising. I think the density in there is really low, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that deer I saw was a nice one, but there was no doe with him. He was by himself. It's kind of odd. At least not that I saw,
I really wanted to make sure I at least got a little bit of hunting in the hills. I know how the hills of southern Indiana have a reputation for producing, kind of like Ohio's hills, and I really wanted to experience some of that and try some of the leeward ridges. Josh had a couple cameras running out there, and one of the cameras had a nice 10-pointer coming through right at dark and right at daylight, almost daily. So we wanted to go and start hunting there and see what we seen and expand from there, and hunt there in the morning and then scout a little bit and regroup in the afternoon.
Ready for the big hill.
You might have to wait for me at the top.
That's fine. 1 foot at a time.
All right. I'm sitting on a saddle about a mile, a little more than a mile back on public land. A cold front has come through. It's a little breezy, and it's only about 50 degrees. It's probably about perfect weather-wise. Just watching the woods come alive. Nothing's moved yet. Set up blind in the dark. Probably got my tree stand aiming a angle I'd like to change, but I'm not changing it right now. And probably not the perfect tree, but I still think I can cover the whole area if something comes through. So I got a spine right here. I got a ridge right there. I got a ridge right there. Got a bowl right here. We got some tangles down there. Probably bedding off at this point and that point, and this wind that's blowing this way. I expect movement to come through here, like that, down here, or along that edge. We'll see. Hopefully something moves.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's a new day today for sure. It was like 55 degrees this morning when we woke up, and it's going to drop the rest of the day. Me and Dan are hunting in some hill country area, and essentially we're both on some really good saddles. I'll show you kind of guys around here. There's a ridge that comes down, and it kind of winds and goes down that way, and I'm sitting on this saddle right here. This saddle ridge goes up and to a point there, and then there's another ridge that goes that way, and another ridge that goes that way. So I'm kind of on a little wishbone type ridge, and it may be hard to see on the cameras, but the ridge that goes through there, there's a lot of points that come down off that ridge, and I found a lot of bedding in there. I've actually found a set of great big sheds down in that area. Yeah, I actually couldn't get them on camera, but I had 2 deer running down there in the bottom. I couldn't tell what they were, but yeah, it's a little bit windy, so should be a good day. I got 2 deer down here in the bottom. I don't know what they're doing. It's almost like maybe a doe and a buck fawn or a button buck, and the doe's trying to chase it off or something. I'm not sure what's going on. None of them were rack bucks, at least, though. I think it was the same 2 deer that came through the first thing when light came this morning. So. Here they come back. Those deer that came down in that bottom down there, the one that was running around crazy had to have been a button buck. And then I started glassing down in there, and there was actually a nice buck down at the bottom by the creek down there. So I'd say what was happening was there's a maybe a doe that's getting ready to come in, and that buck is following her around. And maybe that button buck is just kind of confused or feeling his oats a little bit. But it was odd because I thought, it looked like that doe was chasing that buck around, and I think it was just a button buck, because there ended up being 3 deer come through. That buck was not chasing that doe. He was just kind of sticking with her, waiting for her to come in. Looked like a nice one. It was out to his ears. I couldn't see him very good. He's 150 yards through the woods here, but you could see it was a buck. Oh, I think I just saw another one. Get off here.
Well, nothing came by me, but Josh said he saw one down at the bottom, over where he was. So maybe we'll make a game plan and go after that one tonight. If you notice, there's not a lot of sign in here. Not a lot of rubs and stuff. That don't really matter. People get fixated on that sign. What matters is that there's sign all around here. All the feeding areas have big rubs and scrapes and such. And there's no food here or anything else. It's just a travel corridor between what I assume is bedding and bedding and bedding. And the deer are going to go from bedding to bedding to bedding during the rut. And this puts you right in between their travel routes.
What do you think?
I see nothing.
I saw 4. It was a button buck with a doe, and then a nice buck, and then another one came through later, just a single, I think another button buck, or maybe that same button buck. But the doe was chasing the button buck around, trying to work him away from her, I think, and the big buck was just down in the bottom. I think he was just sticking with them, probably waiting for her to come in or whatever. But cell camera wasn't send me pictures because there was 400 pictures on it, and 3 shooters in daylight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, all in the last, couple weeks at least. And the one that I got the sheds off of for 2 years is on there too, on the 7th in daylight.
Wow.
I'll show them to you here in a second.
So we're going to have to figure something out down there.
Yeah, there's a nice 8-point you would definitely shoot here on the public, and then that big one, and then one other decent one. The big one's probably he's an old, just a monarch, big deer. And he was right where I was sitting at. If I'd have been there the 7th in the morning, he would have walked right up the ridge there. But
After Josh saw a nice buck and checked the camera, and the camera had some whoppers on it in daylight, I really felt good about the draw that he was hunting. It led right down into a cornfield, and I thought, tonight we're going to get on some bucks. I really felt good about it. That cell cam he had on that ridge kind of cut off everything going into that area where he seen the buck and where the other camera was that picked up everything. It was a small area, and any person walking through there would almost have to walk through that saddle, and he only picked up one person on that camera all year, and it seemed to be a hiker in October, early October. But as luck would have it, we get out there to hunt, and there's 3 cars there. And halfway to the saddle, the camera goes off, and it's a guy going right into where we were planning on hunting. Now, I guess some people would have just went down there and hunted anyway, and tried to cut the guy off, or try to get around him somehow. But really, that's bad etiquette. I mean, that guy got there first, and we knew it. If we'd went a little earlier, if we'd have stayed out there all day, we could have been first. We backed off. And then it's the dilemma of, okay, now where do we go? We've driven all this distance to the hills. If we run back to Charlie Swamp, blah, blah, blah. So we ended up going back to the farm bottoms.
we walked right by that thing.
I got the camera up too late.
Oh, did you? Yeah,
Tell me what you saw.
right on that hillside. I just happened to look over and there was something glowing and there was a little 4-pointers.
Yeah, you couldn't miss him.
No, he was bedding right there.
Looked like he was bedding with a doe.
Yeah, and then there was a doe that ran off the other way.
What's funny is we walked right through here. You probably watched this the whole time.
Yeah.
But when we stopped to look at him,
Yep.
because this way you can see him.
Yep. Well, and that doe, I don't think could see us, and he probably was just sitting there with that doe. That doe was going to leave.
Right. Yeah.
Because he sat there and was definitely watching us.
Right.
He looked at us.
For a second there, I thought it was a big one. When that sun was on it, it looked big.
No, and his body didn't look small.
Yeah.
No, it was a little 4-pointer.
What was your friend's name?
Chris Cooper.
Yeah, he'd shoot it at this range.
Right. Yeah. This is definitely
That guy's nuts with his bow.
yeah, one of the best in the world. All right, so it's kind of been a cluster of a day today. We found a good spot this morning. I actually had a cell cam in that spot. Well, we got at the trailhead to go back in that spot at 1:30, and there was 3 trucks at the trailhead going back in there. No big deal. We started off, and then as we were walking, I got a notification on my cell cam that there was a guy back there, and he was walking down the ridge me and Dan were going to hunt. So we backed out, and we ended up coming over to a piece of my on my private here, and we've kind of been scouting around looking for sorting out where we need to go, and we kind of settled on this spot along the big creek again. I'm going to go sit down along my food plot that I have planted down here, and Dan's going to go up to an overlook spot. Kind of has a couple transitions coming together, and it's actually kind of under near a town, so maybe my cousin killed a big buck there a number of years ago, so it's a spot that I've kind of overlooked over the years. So hopefully we come out of here with something tonight. I got to my spot I'm going to set up, and it's pretty much where this crop field comes to an end here on this tractor path, and I don't know if you can see, but right there there's a really nice rub, and there's a big track coming through here, so I think I'm going to sneak in that little tree right there, and I should have a clear shot. You can see that it's a really good bed right down there along this creek, and there's a tree line that comes into this creek, makes a T into it right there, so I think I'm going to set up in one of these trees over here. I think I changed my mind. I'm sitting on this big creek again, same one we set in the other night, and essentially what I got here is a really nasty thick bedding area out here in front of me. There's a cornfield in over here to my right, and then one in obviously behind me. The creek wise and goes out that way, and so I'm kind of sitting in this this little funnel area. I would have to think I'll see some deer back in this bedding area. Hopefully a big buck in there with a doe when they come out here tonight. Yeah, I'm closer to the other road than I am where we park, so I got a long walk back, but that's alright. It's a nice evening, it's beautiful out. Got a good nice creek I can watch flow by me, and should be a good evening.
After this morning's hunt, I thought we had it made for tonight. But when we got back, there was 3 trucks in the parking lot. We walk halfway out there, and the cell cam goes off. And it's one of the guys in the trucks in front of us going through the saddle. And it's a small area where we saw the buck, and where Josh saw the buck and had all the pictures of those other bucks. So we hiked all the way back out and just went back into the farm bottom and checked some cameras on the other end. Nothing's happening. So with very little time, I just looked around and I saw what looks like an overlooked area over here. I came down here and set up. There's not a lot of sign. I don't feel real good about it, but I'm in a tree. I'm gonna give it a shot. This bottom's out in town over there. You can see the houses. And there's some patches of woods here and brush. Goes into the farmland and into the cornfields and up this river bottom. And there's good grass over there. A lot of tracks coming through here. I don't see any rubs or scrapes or anything, but I don't know, we'll see. See what happens. Maybe this is a little buck hideout up there. I mean, it looks like there's some brushy stuff up there. And I don't think anybody's looking at this spot, so it's got to be overlooked. We'll see. We did kick up a doe right back here, so where there's does, there's bucks. Indiana 11 pointer. He's over there sniffing all the trees I touched. Gives me some hope. Maybe there is something nice over there. It came right from where I was expecting bucks to come from.
I was just sitting here thinking about last year, and I shot a coyote at this spot last year. And I'm not joking. As I was thinking that, I looked to my left, and a coyote was walking down the creek line on the other side over there. A lot of coyotes in this area.
So the one spike I seen, and what did you do?
So 2 coyotes, and that's it.
2 coyotes, huh? So what were you saying went on where we were this morning?
Oh, so yeah, the saddle Dan hunts on, I have a cell cam, and we had a guy come in right in front of us. I mentioned that in my video, and we ended up turning around and coming here. Well, about 5:10, another guy walks in, and then at 5:45, a shooter buck walked through the same saddle on the same trail, and then at like 6:15, right at dark, another guy walks in, and then he turns around and walks back out. So I don't know.
Grand Central.
Yeah, there's all kinds of foot traffic on there.
And the funny part is there's hardly anybody, like one guy in there before that, right?
Right.
Because the cell cam's been hanging there for a while.
Yeah, I haven't had a picture of anybody with one guy, and that was in early October. The guy had, t-shirt, some kind of hiking pant on him. It was hot, so it was early. I can't remember the date exactly, but
Yeah, welcome to the rut. I like October better.
yeah.
Get to November and everybody's everywhere.
Yeah, and then I think that causes a lot of lockdown or night movement just because of the pressure that it picks up this time of year. But,
Yeah, I'm not even seeing deer running around in the fields. Nothing.
No.
Chasing. No, nothing.
No.
I mean, we saw the one today that was locked down. That was
yeah.
good sign, but I mean, it was a little buck.
Right. Yeah, when they're locked down, it's I don't know.
I was almost thinking when I got to my stand and I looked, I didn't see much sign, thinking, it might have been better to just sit on a CRP field if there's a hot doe over there.
Right. You never know what could be in there.
Right.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I think I got 4 cell cams out here in Indiana, and that one was the only one that had the one deer in daylight hours. So.
Killing a big buck anywhere in 3 or 4 days is tough. It's hard. If you get together in a group of 3-4 guys or something, maybe one of them shoots something. But when you go in there alone or just me and Josh, it's tough. And it's not like I picked the destination that I'd be most likely to kill a deer in. I picked a place where I wanted to go. I wanted to experience the people, experience the hunting, and that's what I did. It's not always about the kill. It's about the adventure. I had a blast in Indiana. I met some great people that'll be friends with me for the rest of my life. And I had a blast. It was a fun hunt, a fun time, and a great place. If you're from Indiana and you're from that area, you should be proud of your area. It's really cool. Great people. Now, where next? See ya.
Well, I guess this is my third day hunting with Don Infield, or that what's he call himself? The big bowl of serial killer or something like that. I don't know. It's on his shirt. He wears it all the time. Said something about wanting to catch a great big possum. I'm over here trying to deer hunt, and we're looking for possum holes, and showed me all kinds of these secret ways of getting close to these possums. So I set him up next to the farmer's trash dump over here. There seems like there probably some in there. I don't really know what his fascination with possums are, but I told him, you go ahead, and I'm gonna come in here in this little funnel and try to kill me a big buck. I think he may just be here to eat all the food out of my cupboards. I haven't quite figured it out yet. Keep asking him when he's going to leave, and he didn't really say. So I don't know. Hopefully something comes in tonight, though. Maybe Dan will catch him one of them possums.